Best Of. I am your host, Ricky Tucker. On The Best Of, we focus on the best in the areas of business, entertainment, sports, and the community. And it is with great honor and pleasure that we have our guests today. They not only come, and notice I said they, because it's not just one guest. We're fortunate enough, even blessed enough, to have a dynamic couple who just happen to live, work, and play together in the form of Mr. Mel Shaw and Mrs. Pearl Shaw, better known to the people on the in the Mid-South area as Mel and Pearl. So welcome to the show, Mel and Pearl. How are you today?
Oh, doing fine. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it is indeed a pleasure. As I was telling you all before the show, as we were researching and really getting some things together to get an opportunity to talk with you, I became more and more and more excited. So now that I know what the audience is in store for, I'd like to ask you to go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and get started with having the people in the viewing audience to learn some things about you. Now, even from the very beginning, you know, I'm a Southern guy, and you know, they talk about Southern protocol and being a gentleman and all of that. So I was going to start off by asking Pearl to tell us about herself. And she, just as a gracious lady, said, no, let's go ahead and let Mel start. So I thought, wow, how awesome that is. So I see that you and I both just happen to be two incredibly blessed men. With having said that, we would like to ask you, Mel, to just tell us some things about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I've been away for a long time and had the good fortune to move back to Memphis to bring our company, because we work nationwide. And the research indicated that the best place for us to reestablish our business would be Memphis. And the person who was doing that had no idea that I was from Memphis, Tennessee. Wow. So it really worked out great for us. And we've been here now about 3 years.
Wow. Yeah. So that sounds like purely divine guidance. And I am so happy that you were led this way and that you chose Memphis, because hopefully by the time some of the folks get an opportunity to view the show, they will see that if they have not gotten started with working with you and Pearl, then hopefully the phones will be ringing and the email will be on fire and people will be seeking you, because my wife and I have had an opportunity to meet you, and we're incredibly blessed, and we know that the people in the viewing audience are as well. Now, there's one thing, and for some reason I knew that with you being as humble of a man as you are, that you probably wouldn't mention it, but my research indicates that you are not only the creator but the producer of something that I'd like to ask you to share with the audience about.
I think you're talking about the Lou Rawls Parade of Stars. I had the good fortune to be a part of that, and we started this back in 1979, and the idea was that how do we better engage the African American community for the United Negro College Fund? And we came up with the idea. We first started with radio, and we were doing a series of radiothons. We started this in Texas at the time. I was living in Texas and working for the United Negro College Fund. And then we expanded to television and had the good fortune of running into Lou Rawls. And Lou said, I like this project, I want to be a part of it. And he brought in Anheuser-Busch and other major sponsors to participate in it. And I mean, it was history from that point on. It's just really caught on well. It ended up being the largest special event in the African American community anywhere in the world. Wow. It was just that powerful. And at last count I heard that it had raised over $500 million for scholarships and to support of our 41 member colleges of UNCF. So again, it was a great experience, and I was involved with it for 17 years before I thought I was good enough to go out on my own.
Wow, that is awesome. And you know, as I researched and realized that, I must admit that I was quite embarrassed to not know that already. Mm-hmm. And so I would really like to challenge some of the folks in our viewing audience to share this with everyone you know, primarily the ones of you who have attended HBCUs, because this man is in part responsible for some of your tuition. So think in terms of we realize that a lot of households have been positively impacted. So just that alone, along with I'm sure that we're going to learn from Pearl, is, I mean, it would just be a wrap just finding that out. Just the gifts and talents that the two of you have will, you know, display and share with us today. So thank you again for that.
Thank you. Well, I went to an HBCU, and it was a way of giving back. So that was a kind of a double hit for me to be able to do that.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, you know, they talk about 20% of the population doing 80% of the work. When you do that or give that kind of contribution, that shrinks it. You know, you probably took up another 15%. So thanks again for that.
Thank you.
Now, we understand and we realize that beside every great man, and notice I said beside. I'm trying to get my points here too. Beside,
you're a good man.
Beside every great man, great woman, and for you, she comes in the form of Ms. Pearl Saad Shaw. So welcome to the show, Ms. Shaw.
Well, thank you.
And we'd like to find out some things about you. Share some things with us about you.
Well, I'd like to say my life started when I met Melvin Shaw, but
Awesome.
actually I was full grown by then.
Wow, she's pretty smooth too.
I'm from Yonkers, New York. I've spent about 30 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. And this is the third home for me, Memphis, and I love it. Since we've landed here, I found Memphis to be just such a warm community, an embracing community. And the thing that I love most about Memphis, Ricky, is that everybody we meet, because of our work, they're moving forward. Everybody is looking for solutions. Wow. You know, we don't meet people that sit around and complain. Our business, if the viewers don't know, is fundraising.
Absolutely.
We serve as fundraising counsel for nonprofit organizations, institutions, colleges, hospitals, and grassroots organizations as well. So everybody we meet is busy looking forward. How can we do something better? And that's what makes our days great. And those are the people we met so many of here in Memphis. And people coordinate here.
Yeah.
They're not all just doing their own thing. They're looking at how can we do things together. And
Awesome.
it's crazy, but that makes our day. Those are things that make our day.
Wow, that is awesome. And you said things like moving forward, planning, collaborating, those kinds of things. And that really is the kind of energy that Memphis and the Mid-South needs. So the two of you being what we've been fortunate enough, my wife and I, to be referred to as the dynamic duo. But I will tell you, I relinquished my title. And so now we are the dynamic duo junior. And so, you know, we give up our crown and throne to you guys. So again, thanks for the things that you do. And we're going to learn some more because you kind of really touched on some of the other things that we want to talk about, because we want the listening audience and viewing audience to find out more of what you do. And I also want to say to the people in the other markets, have no fear, because Mel and Pearl Shaw are here. We're going to be in your community as well, because you will be able to view this on YouTube. So whatever community, whatever city or state you're in, you will be able to share this. So let's talk a little bit more too. You said something about the things that you do. Talk to me about what services you guys offer.
Great. Sure. Well, let me start. I'll share with you what we do is we help organizations, nonprofits, to deliver on their mission. And we do that in a very specific way. We help them with their fundraising. So many great ideas about how to make the world a better place, but what we also know is that implementing those ideas takes people, it takes faith, takes will, and it takes finances and resources. And that's where we come in on finances and resources, helping nonprofits to figure out how to attract the right types of resources and the right amount of money from the right people. Great. Using the right methods.
Great, awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just pause just a moment to share with you how to get in contact with Mel and Pearl. As we said, that they are principals of Mel and of Saad and Shaw Comprehensive Fund Development Services. In the greater Memphis area, they can be reached at 901-522-8727. For the people in California, they can be reached at 510-79 888-848-4888. They can also be reached by email at info@saadandshaw.com. That is S as in Sam, AAD, and shaw.com. So I always want to share that bit of information because before it's over, people are going to be pulling their hair out and racking their minds just to try and find out how to get in contact with you. And I'm going to be sharing that information just a little bit more throughout the show. How long have you actually been in business? No?
We've been together 10 years, but we had our own individual firms before we met. Mm-hmm. And we were working for a mutual client at the time and decided to say, well, why don't we pool our resources together and kind of start a different kind of business with a new look, a new feel, and a new type of service. And we think we have created a unique brand of fundraising that seemed to have worked. We've been growing by leaps and bounds over the last 10 years, so we're celebrating our 10th year.
Awesome. That's a good number. That is an awesome number. Now, you touched on it just a little bit, but you didn't. Let's peel the onion back just a little bit because there was that subtle slide about you getting together. How did you actually get together and meet? You know, my wife and I work together, and people say, well, how did you guys meet? How did you get started with this? So how did you actually start?
Well, I was working for this client at the time, and Pearl was coming in to meet with the person that I was working with. And I saw her coming down the hall, and I was talking to some ladies, and they said, well, who is that lady? And I said, don't worry about it. I'll find out who this lady is. And then I go in, I hand her my card and say, give me a call. We need to talk.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that she needed me at the hotel. She needed me. No, I'm just kidding. But that's just how it happened. And from that point, we've been together ever since.
Wow, that is awesome. And what an investment. This leads to something that I saw on your website. And Pearl, I'm going to ask you to comment on this. The quote that's on your website says, together, Pearl and Mel have created Saad and Shaw, one of the most experienced, innovative, and creative powerhouse partnerships in fundraising consultancy today. Comment on that for me.
Well, Ricky, we were blown away when we read that. We'd worked with a copywriter, and he asked us, similar questions to you about who we are, what our business is, how do we work with our clients. And that was how he summed up who we are. And it really resonated with me because what that's different maybe from other firms in our sector is we're really personal. We work with a limited number of clients each year, and we combine marketing and business fundamentals. And we ask the hard questions, and we team with people. We don't leave them. And we're so blessed in that way that those who choose to work with us, we develop real long-lasting relationships that are very creative, because we're using a lot of the ideas that Mel developed over that time with the Lou Rawls Telethon, and then we bring them to life real specifically.
Wow. Give
people real specific directions, and it works.
Okay, great. What I'm going to do is, we kind of had a line of thought and train of thoughts here, but what I'd really like to do, because something tells me if we don't pause for this very important announcement, that we're going to run out of time, because the show is 30 minutes, but something tells me that we interview you guys over and over and over again. So in the interest of time, I would like to share with the people in the viewing audience your contact information once again, and then I want to share some late breaking news about Saad and Shaw. Now, first of all, when we talk about how dynamic this couple is, on their website they also say, and they also tell us, that we have 2 locations to best serve our clients. How awesome is that? And of course, that's why we have the 2 contact numbers for people to call you locally in California and locally in the Memphis area, and of course, the website and the email. Once again, that number in Memphis is 901-522-8727, and in California, it's 510-798-4888. And we're talking with Saad and Shaw, and their email address is info@saadandshaw.com. Now, the late breaking news that I want to share with everyone is something that I'd like for each of you to kind of give me your take on this. This is a brand new book that Mel and Pearl have written, and it's called The Fundraiser's Guide to Soliciting Gifts, and that is turning prospects into donors. During this time when people are talking about how the economy is downward and all of that, ladies and gentlemen in the viewing audience, we want to announce to you that we don't want you to be misled by that. People are still in the giving business, people are still in the donating business, people are still in the helping business. My wife is on the board of the food bank, and we realize that they have exceeded. So we want to keep people encouraged and to keep people giving. So with that, tell me a bit about this late breaking and new press you've got.
Well, you know, over our 10 years of working together, we have run into a lot of volunteers who say, you know, I want to participate, I want to help out, but I have a problem in asking for money.
Wow.
And what we try to do is to develop a book and methods in the book that is easy to use and easy to understand. I know there are a number of books out here that the professionals are using, but we designed this book for the everyday person who is engaged in fundraising. This is the methods that you use in order to go out and ask for a gift. And it's an art, but yet it's a science at the same time, and we try to combine those elements in this book.
Super, okay. How about you, Miss Pearl? I know that obviously it looks like it says Melvin and Pearl here, so we know that you got a couple of nuggets. How do you feel about your new project?
Well, we're so excited,
Yeah.
and Ricky, it's available on Amazon.com. Anybody that wants to purchase it, The Fundraiser's Guide to Soliciting Gifts. And what it is, it's easy to read, it's short, it's concise, it's lists of things to do, it's not a deep read, it's not philosophical. If you want to help your church, if you want to help the food bank, if you want to help with a scholarship fund, most people do, but they don't know how.
Wow.
So when somebody asks you, Ricky, would you raise some money for me? Ricky, what this does is it tells you, you can say yes, and
Awesome.
this is what I will need from you.
Yeah, great.
So that my conversation is successful. So it's
Awesome.
very empowering, and then it's got a short script.
Yeah.
Those 3 things you need to say.
Super. Okay. Sounds real good. Well, I tell you what, we're going to keep this out here because we want to consistently remind people about this new project. Now, you've talked about clients. Tell us who some of your clients are.
Well, you know, again, we work nationally, starting with the United Negro College Fund, the Smithsonian. We work with Morgan State University in Baltimore. We work with small grassroots organizations in Jacksonville, Florida. We work with a major hospital in Oakland, California. You know, the list goes on. We have a number of clients, but I'll let Pearl talk about who we have served here locally.
Okay, great.
Great. You know, locally, like I said, we just love the people in Memphis.
Yes.
And some of those people that we've worked with are the teams at Big Brothers, Big Sisters,
Great.
The Women's Foundation for Greater Memphis, Memphis Challenge, the Lupus Foundation, the Leadership Foundation.
Lemoyne Owen.
Oh, Lemoyne Owen College. That's one of the projects that brought us here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. That's good to know.
And we're presently working with the University of Memphis Athletic Department.
Okay.
So
That is great. And we talked about how you all got started individually and collectively, and we've talked about some of the clients. When we talk about making that connection, you've made references, Pearl, about not leading, but teaming, and we've heard words like collaborating. Let's say my wife Gwen and I get started working with you. How would that look? How would we get it? How would we engage? How would we get started? Because obviously you guys have something that a lot of people need to know about. So how does one get engaged with you?
Great. Well, I'll tell you what, the first way we start is usually sitting around a table talking. That's the first thing we want to do. And we seek to talk first with the executive of the organization. as well as representatives from the board. Just hear from everybody, unfiltered. What are you trying to do? What's working? What are your challenges? What do you want to achieve? How much money do you need to raise? How much money do you want to raise? What's your impact? We ask lots of questions, and what we try to do is get people to then write some of that down. We listen, and then we send them a whole bunch of questions and ask them to write back to us, because you know what? The first thing we do is create that case for support. It's a really short document, but it sums up all those things that make the organization unique very concisely. And that's where we start working with them.
Awesome. That's great. You know, in the greater Memphis area, we realize that we have some very impressive people. But as my wife and I go about and talk with smaller businesses to mid-range sized businesses, there is something that's needed in businesses and in those nonprofits. I'm the former executive, well, not the executive, but the former chair of a nonprofit here, the North Memphis CDC. And we realized that when the executive director, Cornelia Sanders, took over that organization, boy, it was just not only limping along, it was crawling. And over the years, he's done an incredible job of making that happen. I think he's an exceptional person. And we've got some pretty, some pretty bright people in this in the greater Memphis area. But I sense that what you have is something that a lot more people in this region need to know about. So we'll have to put together some kind of plan of action to get you guys out and about. So we may have to do some road shows and to tell people about Saad and Shaw, because there is definitely a need. But it sounds like there's help out there, and they could be helped through you. There was something that you mentioned, Mel, that I was very impressed by, and that is you talked about keeping this whole process simple, the KISS principle, and you talked about how this is an art as well as a science. And the more I hear you talk, the more I see that and experience that. The one thing that I take from this, and I'd like to share it with the viewing audience, is there is a return on that investment. So could you talk with us about the return on investment? Because sometimes when we say nonprofits, people tend to not really think in terms of nonprofits as being businesses. But there's an investment, of course, that they have to make in themselves as a nonprofit, whether it's university, college, or whatever. But tell us how an organization would get that return on investment from working with Saad and Shaw.
Well, our basic belief is that for a nonprofit to be successful, it has to be driven. And if you don't have the leadership in place to make it work, or the will to do it, and staff and other professionals, or the person who creates the excitement, provide the resources and all, but their main job is to arm those volunteers to do the work. And then from there, you have to have a real clear case. What are you selling in the marketplace? And if you're not clear on that, and if it's not, pushed all the way through your organization that we're all talking about the same thing, then you're going to have problems. And then another thing that we really emphasize, you need to know what the marketplace is saying about your organization, and in that case, it's usually a feasibility study or a marketing study, and then from there, you need to have a plan. You cannot go out and say, well, I feel good inside, it's wonderful, and I think my cause is the greatest. That's not the case. You really have to operate from a plan in order for, first of all, you want to make sure that your leadership and your volunteers are armed with the right kinds of messages and things that they need to do. And staff, is in that role of supporting them. So we stress that throughout our engagement with all our clients.
Okay. Once again, going back to the what you guys do, and the name of the organization being Saad and Shaw, Comprehensive Fund and Development Services. As we were researching and really looking to learn a little bit more about you guys and the organization, there's a list of services. So whereas you might really put yourself out there as fund developers or fundraisers, Pearl, tell us about some of the other services that you guys offer.
Oh, well, thank you, Ricky. With all our clients, if they want to raise money or a lot of money, we always suggest to people that they start with a service called Counsel on Demand. And that's a 5-hour service, 5 hours a month service where we work with clients to help them figure out exactly what they want to achieve and how they'll achieve it. From there, it's things such as creating a case for support. It's testing that case in the market with a feasibility study or survey. And then, as Melvin mentioned, creating a multi-year fundraising plan and then working with coaching and implementation services to implement that.
Awesome. That is, that's great. I noticed that you referred to him as Melvin. Is that like your, that's the business title that you give him, or is that?
We always laugh because I didn't even realize. I call him Mel sometimes. I call him Melvin other times. So.
And then we won't even mention the other names. That's, you know,
Okay. Those are the really good non-television kind of names. Right. Sounds like a winner. Now, in addition to this, the new book that you've written here, I understand too, Pearl, that you are a technical writer.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk to us about some of the other organizations that you write for, that you have written for.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. You know, before we met, I did a lot of proposal writing. Today, what I do is I write our column, Fundraising Good Times. It's carried in the Memphis Daily News every week. It's in the Carolinian. It's in 11 papers around the country. And I did the writing for this beautiful book, The Fundraiser's Guide to Soliciting Gifts.
Awesome.
We have another book coming out, Prerequisites for Fundraising Success. So we really try to document those things that are at the core of successful fundraising in clear and easy to read language, not complicated. Really, you said it so true. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Well, the one thing that I will say, and the one thing that I'm sure that everyone can notice here, is that the two of you individually and collectively really are powerhouses. So we are happy to have the two of you here. And as I said earlier, we could talk hours upon hours. And unfortunately, it looks like our time has kind of slipped past. So we will have to make arrangements some kind of way to get back together and to talk about your products and services and your successes. By the way, before we close out, I understand you have a new client in the Virgin Islands, is that right?
Yes, it's a real struggle, Rick. I don't know how I get up for this client, but we're working on it.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, as we close out, we're going to, as we used to say in Dale Carnegie when I was an instructor there, we're going to end on a high note. And with that, I will say to the people in the greater Memphis area, don't look forward to seeing Coach Gwen and me here too much. We're going to go to the Virgin Islands.
That's right.
So this has been the best of, focusing on the best in the areas of business, entertainment, sports, and community. I will tell you our special guests once again have been Mel Shaw and Pearl Shaw. They are the principals of Saad and Shaw, based in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Oakland, California. They can be reached at 901-522-8727 or 510-798-4888. This has been the best of. Once again, you can find us on YouTube, so make sure to look for the best of hosted by Ricky Tucker on YouTube. You can find it there. And if you can think of any guests you'd like to have them to give us a call at 901-870-7492. I have been your Ricky Tucker, and as always, remember to be your best.